It's the 7th of October 2014. Guys, you need to listen to this. Recently, in a speech in Birmingham, David Cameron, the leader of the Conservative Party, stated that he wants to scrap the Human Rights Act, which is the only act or rights legally applied to humans. It is a set of standards which should be legally followed, and any breach of those should be reprimanded by, the consequences of breaching those laws. But these human rights protect yourselves. David Cameron recently said in this speech that he wants to not only scrap these, right, but he wants to enforce a system that, yes, you will get benefits, but only if you accept the work you're offered by the job centre, right? And if you look at this Article 4 of the Human Rights Act, prohibition of slavery and forced labour, and go to Section 2, it states no one shall be required to perform forced or compulsory labour. Now, is it not compulsory if you do not accept the job that you are offered at the job centre? You will lose your benefits. You will only get the benefits if you accept the labour that you are offered. You see, by scrapping the Human Rights Act, it entitles people to treat you like slaves. You will be forced to work. It will be compulsory labour. Do you understand what I'm saying here, guys? Anyhow, have a listen to what David Cameron's got to say on this subject.
Now, of course, it's not just the European Union that needs sorting out. It is the European Court of Human Rights too. When that charter was written, in the aftermath of the Second World War, it set out the basic rights that we should respect. But since then, interpretations of that charter have led to a whole lot of things are frankly wrong. Rulings to stop us deporting suspected terrorists. The suggestion that you've got to apply the Human Rights Convention even on the battlefields of Helmand. And now they want to give prisoners the vote. No, I'm sorry, I just don't agree. Our Parliament, the British Parliament, decided they shouldn't have that right. This is the country that wrote Magna Carta, the country that time and again has stood up for human rights, whether liberating Europe from fascism or leading the charge against sexual violence in war. Let me put it very clearly. We do not require instruction from judges in Strasbourg on this issue. So at long last, with a Conservative government after the next election, this country will have a new British Bill of Rights to be passed in our Parliament, rooted in our values, and as for Labour's Human Rights Act, we will scrap it once and for all. We must stick to the plan on welfare as well. With us, if you're out of work, you will get unemployment benefit, but only if you go to the job centre, update your CV, attend interviews, and accept the work you're offered. As I said, no more something for nothing.
Guys, you should pay attention, because these are the things that monster David Cameron wants to scrap. The right to life, freedom from torture, freedom from slavery, right to a fair trial, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, concise and religion, freedom of movement. These, the right to marry, those are all in your Human Rights Act. To choose what religion you want. That you will be entitled to a fair trial. Freedom from slavery, freedom from torture, and even the very right to life of the things that David wants to scrap. You've got to think long and hard about this, guys, because I do worry about this, because we've just seen the vote rigging take place in Scotland, and this is something that they want to push. They want no one to have a right to any life. They want to torture people. They want to put people in slavery. People should be talking about this. But what I'm afraid is happening to people, and they're conscious right now, is that they are being pushed from pillar to post, from one topic to the next. Their mind is being swayed left and right. It's like a storm, a brainstorm taking place, and they're not fixating on anything. It's like how many people the other day saw that video I put out there about the new Secretary General. What happened to the old Secretary General? Why wasn't there no indication that on this day the old Secretary General of NATO would be leaving in the new and taking place? There's a story there, guys, and there's a story here, but I've got a feeling that people will just let this go in one ear and out the next. But you're about to lose your freedom here. If this was the this, in my view, is the equivalent to the constitutional rights in America, and these are your human rights, the only rights as human beings that you get. These are the only rights you have. David Cameron wants to scrap them. These were here, put in place to protect you and give you, an outline of where your freedoms are, and David Cameron wants to scrap them. I told you it was going to go down this road. The only way you can continue keeping this monetary and capital system afloat is by slavery now, because capitalism encourages competition, and there's only two ways you can argue at competition. One, you do better quality, or two, you're cheaper. And we know when there is a recession on that people will go for the cheaper product always, because if they have saved themselves £20 on buying a product, then that is £20 that they can spend on something else. You need to think about what is taking place in society, guys, because this is important. This is a monster at work, ripping up the very human rights that you are entitled to. Without the human rights, you'll have no legal argument when you have been infringed upon, right? Freedom of speech will go, and that will mean all us people on YouTube will suddenly shut our mouths, because none of us want to spend 20 or so days in prison, or whatever might be dispersed on us for talking out about such things. This is becoming a fascist state. David Cameron is becoming, and already is, a dictator. And it slaps of hypocrisy. I tell you now, they tell us what dictators do. They say we need to go to war to remove dictators, and then in the next minute they are behaving like dictators, ripping up human rights, scrapping human rights. David Cameron should be behind bars, in a jail, and so should his predecessor Tony Blair. He's a murderer, and David Cameron is a murderer, and they support the darkness. He talks about light and the sun. He is a creature of the dark, and he is a monster. Believe me, guys, if he wants to ruin such a very thing that gives you some minimal rights as a human being, if he wants to tear that up in front of your face, then something needs to be done. These people are going unaudited. I tell you now, he needs to be drug tested. If you looked at him at the end of this speech, right, you would have swore that there was way too much cocaine being used. Way too much cocaine. And these are the people at the helm of this country. You need to think about what I've showed you in here, guys, because he wants to force you into labour. He wants to force you and your children to come, because I've said after this point there is no more full-time, lifetime jobs for anyone to have in this country because of technological advancement, and they're going to become less and less. So you are going to be forced to work 20 hours a week, right, in a job that is going to deliver no prospects. No way are you going to be able to pay for a mortgage, right, when all there is minimum wage. And that's all that's going to be, because there is a flock of people out there unemployed right now that are prepared to work for minimum wage, because that is the only job. And as if you don't take that job, you will lose your benefits. It takes you straight out of the monetary system and out of the game. You've got no choice. You're forced to work. It is compulsory, and it is nothing short, as I have pointed out in this video, of slavery. And that's why David Cameron wants to do away with the human rights, and you shouldn't let him do that. It is no longer a time, I tell you now, people, we need a revolution in this country more than ever, and I mean that. These people are stripping away the very fabric of this society. And he thinks this is making a better world. For who? For corporations? For the rich elitist? For the self-made emperors of England? I don't think so. We cannot let this happen. I'll tell you now, guys, we cannot let this happen. We need to start forming groups. We need solicitors and barristers to start challenging this. We need solicitors and barristers that don't just think of money and greed and their own well-being and their own future prospects, but for the future prospects of others. This is going to be the only way you're going to do this, and we need to start fighting back. Lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, judicial reviews after judicial reviews. This is a massive infringement of human rights. This is an attack on your human rights, and something needs to be done about it, guys. That's all I've got to say on it. You need to act, because we're 12 months away from seeing them get scrapped, and in a blink of an eye that time will come. As always, bye for now.
We must stick to the plan on welfare as well. With us, if you're out of work, you will get unemployment benefit, but only if you go to the job centre, update your CV, attend interviews, and accept the work you're offered. As I said, no more something for nothing.